training course towards holistic well-being of youth was to raise awareness of two topics: the concept of well-being and the concept of also holistic approach in facing with emotional distress and mental health issues with youth. So to realize that we have to see, we have to face these issues in a wider way, not just with the responsibility of the individual, but also as a society, as our social groups, as youth work, as all the informal networks we have, and also with the with all the strengths the youth have.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to see the young person not just facing this problem, but also which kind of power does he or she have, how is the family, how is the school, how is our interests, where do we find support, and what kind of pressure do we face in society.
My experience during this training course is learning from other youth workers. I think it's very beautiful to be able to learn from others, to be able to learn from their experiences, how they tend to do stuff when something happens, how they react on it. I think it's very powerful to learn from each other this way. So very beautiful and also very wholesome to be a part of this. I feel very privileged to be here today.
Young people's mental health is determined by many different factors that are interacting in a very complex way. These factors can support mental health of youth, can reinforce it, or they can also be risk factors for it. So we can maybe, that is easier to understand, explain them on the individual level. There are many different factors such as biological, psychological factors, competences we have, what we know, what kind of character we are. This is a factor to mental health and well-being. And early childhood experience influence a lot how we develop. Did we have positive attachments when we were young? Did we have any traumatic experiences, and what were the mechanisms that we coped with them? Protective factors are also self-esteem one develops, the ability how we manage thoughts and feelings. That's quite important. Do we know how to manage them or not? Did we learn that? And can we build healthy relationships or not? Things like this. The next sphere of factors, the determinant that influence mental health, is of course the closest surrounding, that's family, school, and out of school. It's important that these surroundings are supportive, especially in the way that they give a young person a sense of belonging. Parents have probably the most important role in this, but also if a young person develops a positive relationship with only one good adult, this is very much big protective factor for later on. Even if they maybe don't have a supportive family, but if they grow attachment or if they interact deeply with one positive grown up, this will be a big protective factor. And school and out of school, that's also quite important, because especially it develops all these competences. It also develops who we are. And the last is social, economical, and political content that also influence, like what is the content we are growing, what values does the country have, how is the relationship to human rights, and so on.
So I see that young people today, they are facing a lot of pressure. They are facing a lot of goal-orientated pressure already in school. And also they have a lot of pressure from society and from social media to be the best, the most beautiful, to have a extraordinary life, the fear of missing out something, everything is happening. And there's a lot of, of stress, of feeling not good enough, not being able to cope with these expectations, or just a lot of stress just making sure to fit these expectations. And at the same time, a lot of feeling not good enough, not being part of something, being excluded because we maybe cannot fit these expectations, and this being the best and fit everywhere. Um, so there's a lot of emotional distress facing this social pressure.
For young people to overcome personal crisis, I think it's very important first to admit or to be aware of that they have some crisis, and then that they maybe find some place or some person where they feel safe enough and they can connect in such way so they can be so confident and feel so relaxed they can talk about crisis they have. So in that way this can be very helpful. Also, if young people, young person, youngsters, teenagers find something that really interests them, maybe that's not school, something else, or that's sport or art or anything else, it can really be also helpful and support them through their crisis. I think society should address and speak more about mental health issues, to accept them as something as normal as broken leg or flu or any sickness, and maybe to acknowledge that every person could have mental issues. Everyone can have some difficult times in their life and feel mental distress. It's nothing to be afraid of. Yes, it can be very difficult, but if society doesn't accept such people and think about them as crazy and exclude them, it can be really even more harder. And also for every person, because then you admit more difficultly even to yourself that you are in mental distress, and you feel that it's something you shouldn't have or be.
I think it's normal for anyone, and especially young people, to experience some emotional distress in life, some crises that we could label or do label as mental health problems, and that's a very, very normal thing, especially in adolescence where we are changing, we are building our identity. There are a lot of influence around us. I think it's very normal to have some crisis, but still the society, normally the surrounding, often doesn't really react positive to it, or maybe the parents are denying it, or even the person itself is denying it, because you should be good, you should not have mental health problems. Like, there is a big social stigma on this, and it's really that it's really we learned that we give the responsibility to the individuals and to the family that they did something wrong, so that's why we have this mental problem. But actually it's the social and social influences, and the society we live in has a big influence on mental health issues or well-being of youth, and we don't see this part. So yeah, it has to be accepted as something normal, and also be seen that the society, how we live, this actually has a big influence on mental health issues, because the community can give a lot of support to young people, especially in the way that it gives spaces where they can build competences, where they can learn emotionally, where they can play. And this nowadays is not so common anymore. In the past, the young people or the child, after school, they went outside, they played in the neighborhood with other kids or young people. They were developing all kind of competences that were actually helping them to be more resilient, to learn different qualities and how to cope with different situations in life. And nowadays the society is more like there's a general belief, at least in Slovenia, but I think also other European countries, that it's maybe dangerous to play outside, and maybe it is to some level, no? And that it's much safer to stay at home, and the kids or young people interact more digitally, what really doesn't build so many competences, so life competences like emotional intelligence, social intelligence, all these things. So this is missing. So the community plays a big factor on mental health issues. And since this is missing, yes, what is the role of community? What can we do? We can create these spaces that give the young people space to play, to learn, to discover, to try out their limits, to have fights, to solve them, to build friends, to do something they love and feel they accomplish something. So build their self-esteem, values, social and emotional competences. So yeah, this is the role of community. We have to create these spaces because it's not so natural anymore that they just happen, maybe like they did in the past, because the kids went to play outside and this happened naturally.
I think it's really important for the youth workers to realize that they are capable and have a lot of power in helping young people with in emotional distress, because it's not just the experts who will help in some very difficult situations. When a young person comes to a youth worker or to any person at all, it's a decision that he or she will share this with this person because this person trusts you. So it's your responsibility and your power not to give advice, but to listen, to accept and be there. And this is a very important power that youth workers have, and I think also a very important role in understanding a holistic picture of our health of the other person. So don't be afraid, just be there for the young people.
I think to help young people nowadays, it's very important to speak with them, communicate openly, to relate to them, have an open communication, laugh with them, to be there for them, take them serious as well. Young people nowadays tend to feel like they're not being taken serious. It's very important that they have that feeling with you, that you can communicate with that way, so they really feel like comfortable with you. So that's very important to help young people nowadays.
It's very healthy sort of to create time and space, like for whoever like is going through emotional distress. You know, it's not easy for someone like sort of to approach you to express themselves or like to tell you, listen, I'm really going through a bad time. Most probably like it's going, one will notice like from the reaction of the other person or how this other person is acting, you know, and maybe like you can sort of feel certain energy or like that a particular person is not comfortable in maybe in his own body or in the space, you know. So like providing someone like with time and with space to express those feelings and such emotions, like if there are negative emotions, like even how to let them go, like in a way that the other person like sort of can feel free and let go of his emotion and like a certain burden, you know. It's not going to be always easy, even like for the other person, and it depends on the situation and on the culture, like on the life circumstances. Yeah. However, like avoiding and preventing sort of distractions around like around the person, like that will really help. Like instead of like finding like something to distract, for example, young people, like to keep them busy, occupied all the time. Like sort of that's sort of the approach. Like young people should be active all the time, busy, you know, like which in my opinion doesn't always work in a good way, because that way they don't have the time or the space to reflect on what's bothering them or to build certain relationships with someone like who they know that they can rely on, or like to be sort of emotionally connected with that person, so that when they are in emotional distress they have the time and the space to discuss that and to talk about it, you know. So like creating less distractions and having more like space and time for the person instead of materialistic activities or what can I give to this person. Like the most wonderful like present that you can give to someone is like time and space and nature.
I think youth work is really important in giving support to young people who face mental distress, emotional distress, because youth workers, they are the ones who really know the youth. So they have established a relationship of trust, of support. They establish safer spaces for youth, so they're much more available for youth. And young people, I'm relating now to a research that was made in Slovenia a few years ago, already before the pandemic. Youth people said that they really want and need and appreciate a person who is human, a person who sees them, not as the problem. So they said that they don't need more experts, they need just a person who is human, who will listen to them, who will be there for them. And this is something that youth work should do and can do. And this is this informal support that can give a lot of important, strong power to the youth so they can face these difficult situations. They can feel that they are not alone. They can have also support to seek for some expert help if they decide, if they need. But we can here make a lot of healing processes, a lot of supportive processes that help youth to go through these difficult situations. And so youth work, it is a very important partner in solving and understanding emotional distress and the whole well-being of youth.
Positive psychology is actually a new flow of psychology, so a new part. And it really focuses on the strengths and the talents and values, so it's the positive side. There's a difference between the positive psychology and traditional psychology. Traditional psychology, it focuses more on solving a problem, like mental ill or stress, or you have a lot of other mental illness diseases. But positive psychology focus on the strengths, on the values, so what's important for someone, and on the talents that a person have or has. I think it's important to focus on the positive psychology because in our society we're used to solve the things that are bad. If someone is like mental ill or has stress, then we would like to solve it. And it can be like a bit negative maybe, because you can see a mental illness as not normal and you want to become normal. But on the other side, the positive psychology is more about what are your strengths. It's okay to be yourself and you're accepted, in my opinion. And it really focuses on the talents, the values that the person has. So I think that's a beautiful side of the psychology as well.
I see youth work as very important in the holistic approach, because in youth work we have a lot of different methods to work with youth. Personally, I do circus pedagogy, and circus is a great media to connect, to use your body, to build strength, trust in the other person, to feel alive. And youth work is really important because in youth work we do a lot of experiential learning, so we learn by doing. Another method that I like a lot and that we did also in the training course is the method of the theater of the oppressed. And this makes possible to talk and express with our bodies. So with our bodies we play situations from our lives, and in the community with our bodies we are searching together for possible solutions or for possible understandings of the situations we face. And we realize also that we are not alone in this. We see how the other people look at the same problem we face, and maybe really realize a lot more people face similar problems.
The methods that I really like to use, or that we are using, we are creating these safe spaces in nature where young people can discover themselves newly, where they can be who they are. And these are normally adventure pedagogical camps on a farm or also somewhere else. And in these methods it's important that you create a safe connection in the group and actually just hold the space, and then things happen on their own, even if and we have a mixed group of people. We have young people that have some issues or some problems or any disadvantages, and maybe young people that on the first eye don't have it, but all of them are the same here on the camp, and there is no focus on the problems. There is focus on discovering, learn about yourself, about others, experience life with the body alive, no, not so much digital and all these things. And camp like this can, even maybe 2 weeks camp, I saw many times it's changed some one direction completely, and it was a step for thinking what is meaningful for them, having new friends, and so on. And we can create these spaces can be created not just with camps. This can be sports, can be art, can be anything creative, anything that young people do what they like. Better in a group, because then they also build social competences and emotional competences. So yeah, to create these safe spaces, that's important, and that's the method I believe in. And then we don't need to do as youth worker a lot, because the young people have the wisdom in themselves to heal themselves, to take what they need if we offer them, and then they will take what they need. Maybe someone more this, someone more that, but it's important we give an environment that is so rich where they can learn this.
One of the things I used to cherish is creating space with them, for example before they go to sleep or during the day, if someone tell you, listen, I need to speak with you, trying to do your best to create the space and time, to just listen, and which for some people it's difficult to just listen, because people tend to be like, oh, poor you, how can I help, and I try to keep away from that, and sort of the best thing I can do for you is to listen, how are you going to help yourself, what's best for you,
A bibliotherapist is a professional who helps people and uses literary text in the process. For example, novels, short stories, tales, poems, and usually a bibliotherapist works in a group session, but the method can be implemented in one-on-one sessions too. And we discuss literature, as I mentioned, pieces of literature like poems, tales, novels, but we don't concentrate on the stylistic values, but on the personal effects, how this piece of literature affects me personally, what kind of emotions arise when I read this text, what does this text mean to me. You could say that it's a branch of art therapy, because we are working with art, we are working with literature, but we are making connections to other people and to our inner worlds.
I think what's needed for mental health and a bit of mindfulness or mindfulness is we have more impulses during the day than ever. So people found to be very restless, I think. And for this, it will help to meditate or get less restless if we can just focus on the things that matter for us. And really show them a different way of inclusion in groups, in sports, in whatever creative things they like. Try to support that to see growth. And mindfulness is an important thing to get centered and in contact with yourself. And it's a good base point to go from.
I work with children with social issues. It's a very rewarding job, and it's something that I would never change, because they teach me a lot, how to be critical, how to sort of question authority, maybe certain people they are scared to question certain things, but they don't care. Like, listen, like this doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? This is not for me. Like that sort of questioning the authority and like sort of trying to find their own identity. Which like for so many years, like somehow when they sort of feel that there's a genuine connection between their caregiver, or there's that genuine interest like between their caregivers, like they like they can sort of give you certain satisfaction, like that it's really hard to find anywhere, like certain appreciation like of what you're doing, of the value of the work that you're doing, and like it surprises you like that such children who went through traumatic experiences or such difficult time can be like that empathic or have like a golden heart, sometimes even like if they had the worst moments, and like there were like moments like where they were arguing like and things like happen, like people get violent, but there comes a point where like they are really empathic and they show like their sensitivity and like what a golden heart they have.